Well, guys, calm and collected Francis Ngannou defeated Stipe in his second attempt. He's the new scariest guy in the world. We're talking about that fight and what's next for the Predator right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, what an excellent performance by Francis Ngannou last night. You know, he obviously lost the first fight to Stipe. And since then, well, after that, he had another setback against Derrick Lewis. And a lot of people were concerned and questioning after that fight, have we seen the best of Francis? Was a Francis that got defeated somebody who's not going to be able to rally and come back from that? He then strung off 4 knockouts in a row and looks and capped it all off by looking spectacular and defeating by knockout the greatest heavyweight to ever do it in Miocic.
Yeah, and he definitely looked like the champion of the world last night. I mean, he was cool, calm, collected, was measured in all of his shots. He wasn't, the typical Francis that we see bum rushing all of his opponents and just hoping that one of those powerful shots knocks him out. He was scoring really great shots, started with the leg kicks, moved up with head kicks, sharp punches, sharp jabs, everything. And, it really looked like a different fighter. Looked like a world-class championship caliber fighter.
No question. I was really impressed by his patience last night. We all know that Francis has tremendous power, and we see when Francis fights, he has the tendency to crack somebody or land a shot and then get kind of carried away and go on these flurries. And what we've learned from the Stipe versus Fabricio Verdum fight is sometimes when you rush in on Stipe Miocic, you can really pay for it. He's not known for his power punching, but he is known for knockouts when his opponent is coming in on him, rushing him. He takes that momentum and uses it to knock his opponents out, the Verdum fight being the example there. So what we saw last night was a very calculated and very patient Ngannou. He felt like he was the better fighter, and he knew that over the course of the fight, that was going to that storyline was going to unfold, and he was perfectly cool to take his time.
Yeah.
As you said, he started with the leg kicks, landed some really good leg kicks. He came over the top with that straight right that kind of hit Stipe on the top of the head, buzzed him a little bit, but he wasn't so quick to rush in. He kind of took a step back, threw a couple of jabs, threw a couple more leg kicks, and then we saw Stipe go for that takedown. And man, oh man, talk about improvements in his game. What a great sprawl Francis did. That was textbook. He sprawled out, defended the single leg takedown, did a nice rotation thereafter, sort of into the side control back position. Stipe was sort of in a turtle position, started throwing shots. Stipe, man, is there any guy tougher than that guy? I mean, I think one of the most underrated things about the champ, the former champ now, is his chin.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing everything he could to stand up. He did get back to his feet, and he ate multiple shots on his way up from who they say is the hardest hitter in the world. Just a really incredible performance by the new champion. 3 African champions now. I'm sure that the UFC, as much as they had their back and forth with Stipe, and they got it right sometimes, they didn't get it right sometimes, they appreciated him as a champion, but I think they see a very, very bright future in Ngannou and where he can go from here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great options for him right off the bat. Day one as the champ, as the new boss in town, he's got some business to take care of as far as a rematch with Stipe goes. Derrick Lewis, he'd like to avenge that loss. And Jon Jones, of course, is the guy that might skip the line and take that first title crack at Francis's new belt. But, certain things stuck out to me, and I believe that takedown defense that Francis was able to get on Stipe last night was something that it's probably almost equally important to him as the belt.
Yeah.
Because that's like a weight off of his back. Because, when you're training things in the training room, and make no mistake about it, even though he's only fought 2 minutes and some change since his fight against Derrick Lewis inside the octagon, he's been putting in work every single day, twice a day, and training all of these things. But you never really know how those new skills are going to apply in the real time in the cage against the best people in the world. And to see the takedown defense that he's been working on with his team work and pay off against a really great grappler like Stipe, obviously is going to make him feel so good when he goes back into training next. He's going to feel like he's actually made improvements in those areas. And I think that's a big part of what's going to bring Francis's confidence back all the way. He's obviously confident in his hands and stuff, but when he got in there with Derrick Lewis, he was not a confident fighter. He was a very timid fighter and was afraid to engage. And we've kind of seen him, get rid of that as far as the stand-up portion goes, but we haven't seen him tested with takedowns and having to do much defending from grappling. But now that he's able to do that and do it against a high-level fighter like Stipe, I feel like the confidence is going to keep rolling, and that's exactly what the big man needs. He did everything right, and like credit to Stipe, he did come in tough as nails and looked like he was pretty tough to take out. But Francis was able to do it once that flurry and that crazy firefight started in the second round. It was only a matter of one of those shots landing that was going to end the night.
No question. And you hit the nail right on the head as far as we only saw him 2.5 minutes leading into last night's fight. Just under 10 in last night's fight, obviously getting it done in the second round there. But it's one of those things where you train 10,000 hours so that you can have 7 minutes of excellence inside of the octagon. And so what we've saw is just the culmination of all of this hard training and the work that he's been putting in, both mentally, which is a major aspect of the game too. When you see Francis, you see an incredible physique, you see an incredibly strong, gifted, talented human being as far as the physical aspects of it go. You see a hard worker, you see a grinder, but I think more even importantly than that, now we see somebody who's mentally dialed in. He said after that fight, the Stipe fight, I felt like I could have been the champion at that point, and I never lost that feeling, maybe a little bit with the Lewis fight. But then as he was stringing off those knockouts in a row, he kind of said, I feel like I'm good enough to be the champion, and mentally I'm there now, and I just need my chance, and I need to work my way back up and get a chance to prove it again. And boy, did he last night. And so I think it's really the matchups now, you just like salivate over what could be. Obviously there's the loss to Lewis, and everybody was really upset about that fight. A lot more people blame Francis for the pace of that fight than do Derrick, and I think probably rightfully so. Derrick, as we saw with Curtis Blades, is very much he's patient. He waits for his shot, and when he finds it, he takes it. He has a very clear idea in mind of what he wants to land. Francis is a little bit more in your face, come at you. So while they are similar in respects, they are very different in other respects. You've got obviously a Jon Jones fight, which is a mega fight, but Jon is now chirping in, show me the money, this and that. And him and Dana are starting the back and forth as those two tend to do. And then I think you got to throw a third one in there, and that would be, if he wants it, the Stipe rematch.
Yeah.
Yes, Stipe Miocic is still the greatest heavyweight to ever compete in mixed martial arts, in my opinion. And let's not forget that Stipe Miocic was knocked out early in the fight to a guy by the name of Daniel Cormier, only to come back and say, I made some mistakes. I know what I can do to correct them, and I can come back and beat this guy. And he was right 2 times over. So I don't think that if anybody's deserving of an immediate rubber match, it's got to be Stipe Miocic.
Yeah, no, Stipe deserves that fight. Those are the 3 names you have to call out and have to be, 1, 2, and 3, 1A, 2A, and 3A, or whatever. Stipe Miocic just gave Francis a rematch that he didn't even, deserve right off the bat. He had to go do a lot of heavy lifting, but, he did do that. He gave Daniel a crack at it, and then another one. And, it's just one of those things where Stipe's done so much for not only the company, not only the sport, but for his opponents, for the other heavyweights, that they should be the first person saying Stipe should get a title, a rematch at that title shot is Francis Ngannou. And if Francis believes he can beat him, then what better way to get your first title defense as the new champion than against the greatest heavyweight of all time and a guy that you just beat. So in my opinion, you can't miss if you're the UFC as far as which direction you go. All of them are really great nights of business, in my opinion, and they're all really entertaining fights. But you kind of just have to see what works the best. I think Derrick Lewis is obviously healthy and ready to go. Jon Jones has been out for a very, very long time. So he's
I think probably close to 14 months.
Yeah, over a year. So he's ready to go. Stipe is going to need a little time. So if they want a quick turnaround on Francis, which if I was the UFC, I would probably want, because he didn't seem to take much damage last night, then I would be leaning a little bit more towards Jon and Derrick and let Stipe get some rest.
Yeah.
But I don't think Stipe needs to go prove anything and fight another top contender before getting another shot at the title.
No, there's certain people that just get exceptions and get to skip the line. And listen, if Jon Jones gets to skip the line at heavyweight, having never fought there, then Stipe, who's the best to ever do it in that weight class, certainly gets to skip the line.
Right.
But as you said, I think Stipe needs some time off. He needs to heal. I mean, he was viciously knocked out. The way he fell, the knee, I don't know if anything's wrong with that. I haven't heard anything. I'm just speculating. But Francis is the kind of guy, and this is why it's so exciting, because the heavyweight division has kind of grinded to a halt over the last few years, and that's largely been because Daniel and Stipe were sorting things out. But in reality, Francis is the kind of fighter that you can turn him around 3 times a year. He doesn't take much damage. Yeah. He gives a hell of a lot of damage, and he does a lot of damage, but he doesn't take a whole lot of shots, and he wants, and said in the post-fight conference last night, he wants to be an active champion. He wants to fight multiple times a year. So you get him, or him and Jon in there, or you get him and Derrick in there. Here's what I believe is going to happen. I believe that they're going to try to make the Jones fight. Dana White said in the press conference last night, the fight is Jon Jones as if he wants it. And they're going to try to make that fight. Now, if Jon Jones starts to be the Jon Jones that we have seen before and get in these public spats with Dana and demand more money and demand, I need more time, or it's got to be this venue, or it's got to be that venue, they're going to let that go on for a couple of weeks, and then they're just going to make the Derrick Lewis fight. Because the Derrick Lewis rematch, I don't think anybody in their right mind believes that that fight would go the way it did the first time. Those are 2 guys where it's literally you flip a coin, because it's rock'em sock'em robots. One of them's putting the other one to sleep.
Right.
And you're going to see, I would like to see, is this calculated Francis? Is he going to rush in on Derrick? Because Derrick is going to be patient. He's going to lay back. He's going to bide his time, and he's going to look for a shot. And so something's going to have to give. I'm very intrigued by that fight, and I'm also very intrigued by the Jon Jones fight, because Stipe, he wrapped up that single leg last night. I believe had Jon Jones been in that situation, we would have seen Francis on his back, and we would have seen a takedown. So what would have happened thereafter? We know Jon's very aggressive with the ground and pound, the elbows, things like that. The unorthodox teeps, the knee kicks thing. So I want to see how Francis has evolved his game as far as that goes. So either one of them, sign me up. But I think that they won't put up with Jon's antics all that much. They'll put up with some of them. They won't put up with it for too long.
Yeah, and he was very vocal on Twitter last night. He said all kinds of things and, show me the money and let's play. But then, give Derrick the fight because, if you're not going to pay me what I want, then I'm not interested. So I think what he's going to do is talk himself right out of an immediate title shot, and then Derrick's going to get the shot. And as you said, that's a 50-50 fight. Those 2 guys are the strongest, heaviest-handed fighters that the UFC's ever seen, in my opinion. And we really don't know who's going to leave with the belt when they fight. That could go.
The odds
way.
will be heavy on Francis's favor, and probably rightfully so. He just defeated the best heavyweight to ever do it. But
Derrick's last performance earns him a shot at being, the number 1 contender and potentially the favorite, because he finished a monster in Curtis Blades even more impressively than Ngannou just finished Stipe. So
it's a very intriguing.
But I do believe and agree with you that Francis will be the favorite going into pretty much every fight from here on out. Even the Stipe fight, or even the Jon Jones fight, I think he might. Yeah, be the favorite.
I was looking last night as I was watching the post-fight press conference if any early betting lines had come out. They do have an early betting line, and Francis is like a -140 favorite.
You're not
very close,
money on it,
very close fight, kind of a not quite a pick'em, but almost a pick'em. But either way, sign me up for either one of those fights. But I do want to point out last night that Stipe. I won't say that it's just time. Listen, if he wants to hang his gloves up and say, it's over for me, I did enough, he can ride off into the sunset. He's a multimillionaire. He unlike a lot of other fighters, he has another job that he loves as much or more than fighting, and he doesn't need the money.
Yeah.
So he can go and do his firefighting work. He can feel fulfilled. He's got a nice young family. He's got a lot of things he can do. But if he's not ready to hang them up yet, like I said, he got knocked out pretty brutally by Daniel Cormier and then came back and said, I know what I need to do to beat this guy. Nobody believed him, but he was right. Yeah. And he did it twice. So I think that he's at least deserves one more shot against Ngannou if he wants it. But like you said, let's do one more fight in between. Let's do either Jon or Derrick. and maybe even let Stipe get one fight in between, depending on how fast or how long it takes him to heal up. But if it takes him, 6 months to a year or whatever, and then he wants to come back, I think we owe the GOAT of the heavyweight division at least one more crack at the title.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And there's a few fights I'd love to see Stipe fight Jon Jones. I'd love to see him fight Derrick Lewis. I'd love to see him in there with Alexander Volkov or a Cyril Gane if he can string together a few more wins. So there's a lot to do at the heavyweight division. I want to see Stipe Miocic continue to fight, potentially take that belt again, just to solidify his name in the history books even a little bit more than it already is. And, everybody should be grateful for the champ. Everybody should be congratulating the new champ. And it's a very fun time to be a fan of the UFC. And in particular, the heavyweight division seems to have a whole lot of life at the top of it.
Yeah. And I'll just make one more point about Francis before we wrap here. Stipe is the fighter who everybody he's very calm and calculated. He stays behind his jab, he works the body, he goes high, he goes low, then he goes high, and then he shoots the take, keeps his opponents guessing, and they start to lose rounds, and then they start to rush him. Francis was so patient and so calculated last night that when that knockout happened, Stipe was actually the one rushing the action because he caught Francis coming in, and then he thought, okay, maybe I have him rocked a little bit. I have been rocked already in this fight. Let's try to end this night right now because I don't know how much more I can take as far as damage goes. And he was the one who kind of rushed the action a little bit, and Francis was the calculated counter striker who finished it with that hook. So I think it's really worth noting that Francis was so patient last night that he even made Stipe rush a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Stipe didn't do the wrong thing in that time. When you're that rocked like he was, and you do catch somebody, maybe it is a good time to start just throwing all of your shots and you
got to roll the dice.
Yeah, exactly. Throw a million things at the wall. Hopefully something sticks and knocks the big guy out. But it didn't go his way. That's how the sport goes. And congratulations to the champ.
Most definitely. Guys, thanks so much for watching our video. Please let us know in the comments, who do you want to see Ngannou fight next? Should it be the trilogy match with Stipe, provided that he wants to come back and fight? Jon Jones is moving up. Should it be him? Or should the Derrick Lewis rematch happen immediately? We always love to talk to you guys in the comments and debate things, so keep those great comments coming. As always, if you've enjoyed our video, we really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. It helps us out tremendously, guys. And check us out on audio where you listen to podcasts. Until the next video, guys, have a great day.
Peace.